Welcome back to another episode of Black on Purpose 365, where Black on Purpose is the purpose.
Mhm.
Have a seat at the table. That positive energy. I say that, piggybacking off of one of my last episodes, I talked about having a strong support system. And I would say that as far as, support system and people that help me or I have had to refer to when I'm trying to figure something things out, I would include you in there, somebody that I value your opinions, your suggestions. Even and I was developing this podcast, you kind of was the one that helped me to keep on a narrow path and not be all over the place with it. So I just want to say I appreciate you and I appreciate your time sitting down talking to us today.
Thank you. Feeling is mutual. We go way, way back, way, way
Hmm.
back. And it's amazing. Going through the seasons, you lose people in seasons, and our friendship has remained sturdy, thorough, as the kids
Yeah.
say, thorough
Hmm.
throughout all the years. And you get a little older in this thing, and you really appreciate the quality of friend, and don't really care about the quantity. Quantity doesn't mean anything if the quality isn't good. So feeling is definitely mutual.
Yeah, definitely. Um, we we've talked about a lot of different things. I can remember that one time after the baseball game, the Phillies game we went to, and like that whole day it was a good day, but there was a lot going on because we seen the lady standing on the street that was
Hmm.
hot, had the sign said hot and ready. I think that was also the same night that cop pulled you over,
Hmm.
and but then the only thing that calmed me down was getting to watch preseason
Yeah, the
preseason Baltimore
Ravens.
Raven game. And the chick act like at the restaurant, she act like she didn't want to let me watch the Raven game. Like,
Yeah,
ain't
yeah.
nothing else on TV. Why can't I watch Baltimore Ravens? But yeah, we didn't been through some things. And I want to start here though, as far as when you began your, I guess, your career. What was your ideas about where you were going to be headed? Or did you even think about, where I'm going to be, where I'm going to be living, what kind of salary I want to have, am I going to be married? Or any of those things are part of your thought process? Take 18, 19, get ready to go into college after high school.
Absolutely not. I wanted to make money. Believe it or not, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. This is how I started out. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. That was like my end all be all. Before I wanted to do orthopedic surgery or move into that, I wanted to be an athletic trainer. I wanted to be one of the first female athletic trainers in the NFL. That was my goal. I went to college. I did my undergrad in physical education and biology. I did some grad work in athletic training, and it was like, no, this ain't it. You know what I mean? This ain't it. And a lot of things like happened. When I first got to college, I remember like my first year, one of my professors was like, "You should teach." Honest to goodness, he was like, "You should teach," and I was like, "No, I shouldn't." I was like, this is what I said. I said, "Teachers don't make money." I said, teachers don't make any money. And at 18, I said, and I'm nobody's role model because that was my perspective of what a teacher or who a teacher was. And that was
Hmm.
18.
Hmm.
So I ran away from teaching. I ran away from teaching. I ran away from teaching. Um, and then my senior year, professor told me again, you should teach. And I was just like, nah, I already had my plan. I got admitted into graduate school. I was doing athletic training. My plan was great. I had looked into Marshall University to take the MCATs and to look at Marshall's med school. I mean, I was absolutely ready, and totally ran away from teaching. I got down to North Carolina because that's where I did my grad work, and God really began to constrict um avenues for me. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong, from finances to my car broke down like 3 days before I was supposed to leave. Now hindsight
Mm.
is 2020. Hindsight says, oh, this is a sign. But I kept pushing, I kept pushing, I kept pushing. And so that was like in 2002. Kept pushing. My graduate school experience was not the best, because it was so many things going on. The living situation was rough. I was in a relationship. It wasn't a bad relationship, but it was a relationship out of convenience. I was in that relationship. It wasn't good. It wasn't God. Wasn't gonna say it wasn't good. It wasn't God. And I think this is what happened in March of 2003. I was just like, all right, Lord, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll do it. Now, I was down in North Carolina, and I was coaching. Believe it or not, I was coaching because I played softball all through college. So I was coaching a high school softball team, and I loved it. I loved just coaching the team, but that was like my only source of income. I can't even remember like how I was making it. You know what I mean? My dad was on me trying to tell me to find a job. Couldn't find a job because one of the things they don't tell you about after you graduate college is that you are overqualified for a lot of things, but you're underqualified for the thing that you went to school for because you need that experience, you know? And so
Right.
it's a funny dynamic.
Hmm.
And so I just remember one day I was like, all right, Lord, I promise. I said, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And I said it just like that. And I got to the end of myself, and that's really what it was. Lord, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. Honest to goodness, within the next 3 weeks, I had a job. Matter of fact, I had two jobs. So the next 2 weeks, working with people. I worked at like two YMCA's, um, and then things just began to happen and shift. Um, I broke up with the guy, got out that relationship, and interesting enough, my sister was in Philadelphia. She had been in Philadelphia. They had just moved. Her and her husband had just moved to Philadelphia. They'd been here for about a year. And so I'd gotten those two jobs. And one of the jobs had laid me off because they were like, it was a new YMCA, then it was an old YMCA. And like the business for the one YMCA wasn't working. So I got laid off. So I called my sister and I'm like, listen, I can't tell my dad I didn't got laid off from this. You know what I mean? Like, I can't tell him. Like, he'd been
Hmm.
supporting me, been trying to get me a job, on me, just a parent being a parent. And so she was like, come to Philadelphia. At this time, she was pregnant with her second child. She was like, just come up and help. And I was like, okay. So I came up to Philadelphia, and I was leaving. I came to Philadelphia and I was leaving. I was here for 6 months.
Tough
I said,
city.
oh, no, no, no. I said, this is too fast. I
Mm.
said, these people just mean for no reason. And I
Hmm.
genuinely was leaving. My best friend was still in Fairmont, West Virginia, which is like 25 minutes away from Morgantown. So I was just shifting my plan. I'm going back to West Virginia. I'm going to live with him. We lived together our senior year, so I'm going to live with him. I'm going to get this in state tuition for med school, and I'm back on my plan. I ended up being a volunteer coach for T ball. The gentleman who ran the rec center then offered me a summer job. And during that summer job, I was like a camp counselor. So I was a camp counselor, and it like frustrated me because we had probably like 50 kids at this camp. 50 kids at this camp. And this camp costs money. It was like, $175 a week for these kids to come to this camp from 9 to 3. But I felt like I was like, are they scamming these pep people out this money? Because like it was just like recess all day. It was no structure, and it really drove me crazy. And so I took my group. I had seven-year olds. So I took my group and I made like a schedule for my group, and we used to run the schedule like just run like everybody else would be like doing all types of stuff, but my kids was on the schedule. We would have PE, then we would do reading, then we would do like art or something like that. And I never forget, like I gave my kids, these 7-year olds, a spelling test one day, And they were words that, simple words in my mind: have, had, should, could, especially because you're going into second grade. And I'll never forget, there was one young lady who had, I gave the spelling test and she put her head down on the desk. She started crying. And I was like, "What's wrong?" And she was like, "I can't spell these words." And it broke my heart. And
Mm,
it was at that moment that I was like, "All right, Lord, I'll do it." Like, what? And again, I was like, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it." And so I never, and I tell this story often because it was just a, I think this life and this profession and this calling has been a series of surrender, right? Like a series of surrender over and over and over again. I tell people all the time, I fall in love with this over and over and over again in different ways. I also get angry about it now in ways that I didn't get angry about it, 20 years ago. This is my 20, tomorrow starts my 22nd year. Um, and so, I think it comes down from me. And I tell this, I never wanted to teach. They Teachers didn't make money. Um, but I think when I surrendered, I tell people this all the time because I've heard it: God's will, God's bill.
hmm
And so, like, God has taken care of me through all of the years, through all of the everythings. And so I didn't think about salary. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. You know what I mean? I wanted, and before I was an orthopedic surgeon, I was going to be an athletic trainer in the NFL. And this is not where that is now. But I genuinely can't see myself doing anything other than what I'm doing right now.
I
So
can
yeah.
tell. I can tell because again, I'll bring this up, this one little story, but the one when we were at you was taking me to the bus station in Philly, and we stopped at Wawa, and the girl was working at the Wawa, and like she was going off on the people there, and you literally just like checked her, and I'm like, man, this is about to turn into something else, and she turned around and like like instantly she was giving you respect and calm down. That was kind of when it let me know, even if I didn't know what you did at that point, I knew that you got there's a certain aura, and there's no way that kids know it immediately. Like we all had one of those teachers when you were growing up that you just knew that you wasn't going to do anything crazy. You weren't going to say nothing crazy to him. You got a certain respect for him. You might not call him mean, but you just know you what might even some kids would have more respect for the teacher than their own parents.
Yeah.
So that was that kind of energy when I seen it in her face when she like completely changed the whole body language when she seen you. You ain't even tell me what was going on until after we went outside and you explained it. But I just seen that and was like, yeah, that's. I mean, you doing what you're supposed to be doing. I think that that's is dope because I think honestly a lot of people end up like you said when you just keep going forward and you surrender to the Most High, then it falls in place. But it's a matter of staying aligned without jumping
Yeah.
off course. And I
Yeah.
think that that's been my case. I, I fell into IT, and it's been working for me for a long time. But I've also fell into I'm I'm not great at anything, but for some reason I'm because of all the different trials and tribulations and all the experiences, I'm easily able to adapt to a lot
Yeah.
of things real quick. Although IT is my baby, I've had it's been so many challenges with almost like even getting into IT at first. I was fresh out of I don't know if I ever even told you this, but so when I graduated, I got my master's degree. I'm all excited, like I'm about to be doing it. Everything's about to be sweet,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this whole fantasy of what I thought life was going to be, and similar to you, as far as when you graduated, I got humbled, and I was like, what am I going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
And I went out to I was living in Northern Virginia at this point with a dude named Larry Stossel, and he threw some curveballs that I'm like, oh, I gotta go. Then I moved down to Hampton with a friend of mine. He tells me, he in the Navy, so he like it ain't no problems for them to get jobs in that area. So he kind of like, oh man, you can get a job like it ain't nothing. You got all this education. I don't even know anybody that got all the stuff you got. And I'm like, so I let him gas me up, and I got there, and it was like. it wasn't nowhere near what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
So it took me 2.5, 3 years before I actually got into my career. So, but I didn't give up on it because I just knew that, I wasn't going to allow something that I wanted to not happen. And I also, something I don't think I really mentioned to you, and we ain't talked in a minute, but I discovered that I was living in fear for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. And it was just during this transition that I've been going through that I've stopped living in fear.
Yeah.
So then I was living in fear that I wouldn't be respected enough. Or I was living in fear of I'm all educated but I ain't making no money. I was living in fear that I wouldn't be doing as good as people that I know that was already doing well. So I was living in fear of a lot of different things like that. Everything that I was doing was a cause and effect. So it was like I
Mm-hmm.
got to do this because I know that this is gonna happen, and it wasn't happening like like I thought it was supposed to happen. It did happen, but it was just not in the
Right.
same process of when I thought things were gonna happen. So I was getting a lot. It was a lot of frustrations, but again, back to what you were saying about the surrendering. And as I got, when I would get to when I would every time that I would get to this point where I was just fed up, where I'm just like, man, my hands is washed. I don't know what to do. The opportunity would come out of left field every single time. It was still with IT though. It was so I'm like, all right, I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. So I rode that wave for a long time. I mean, to the point now I'm 17 years
Yeah.
in IT, but that road has been like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in that process, I've learned how to maneuver, and then also I've learned to have other sources of income, and
Yeah.
I've learned to stay null. Not to get too high, not to get too low. I also experienced that same thing a couple of times with the whole layoff thing, like what you was talking about, where I really don't even tell anybody. I just go and fix the situation. It's just like, all right, let me just get this, and it's worked and most times it's worked where I ain't even have to tell nobody. But then it was some times when it got rough, it got tough, and it was like, damn, man, now I'm really trying to see what I'm made of. But so I really I like where you was just your transitions and how you explaining, how you kind of was shifted into what you're doing, your calling. Can you tell me, like, now that, like, I guess as a principal, how much different is I guess your feeling and your passion for the children as it was when as you were doing the teaching part?
Oh, probably a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a little deeper. It's different now.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely like. It's funny. Like I was talking to my sister yesterday, and we were just having a conversation about like I go back. I've had this last week off, so I've been off and just totally like relaxed to a certain extent. I'm always thinking. I'm always, but like I'm being intentional about like not bringing the laptop, not doing anything. Just come on down. And so I read my emails while I was on vacation, and so we have interviews tomorrow. And I think this is the biggest shift in the classroom. I could manage the kids. I knew the kid. I knew who I had. I knew what I had to do. I've had enough experience where I know you can put kids in buckets and decide how to go forward. What's hard for me right now is, or what my challenge is right now is, um, I have to look at the candidate and I have to be able to see past the degree and the accolades, and I have to be able to really honestly say, can this person teach this baby? Can this person teach this group of kids? And I think that's hard because I'm wearing so many hats. In the classroom, I had just the teacher hat, and that's a humongous hat to wear. But now I have, in a lot of ways, I have the teacher hat because I'm coaching these teachers. But I also got to pick right. You know what I mean? I have to pick. I got to pick what's right for these kids, what's best for these kids. My babies deserve the best, and I say that they deserve the best. And I think that's the biggest. Like I can't, and I say this and I meant it before, but I say like I can't mess this up. I can't mess this up. Like I cannot mess this up, this has implications for their lives going on down the road. Like tomorrow we're going in and I have to interview for a fourth grade math teacher. So I have to take all the things that I know about this past year into account. And it's funny because like I have this conversation with our assistant head of school because we sit in on the interviews a lot, and I'll say my kids can't experience another year like they had last year. That's unfair. Like, and so I think I don't want to say it's pressure, but I think a lot about my kids. I think a lot about I need to make sure that my baby's okay, like that spirits aren't being broken, that they are building. Every kid don't come to school to learn yet, and so I have to make sure that I'm putting not only my kids in position to learn, but I got to make sure that that teacher that I hire, you got to understand this too. Like, this, you know what I mean? And so I think like that's the biggest shift because I think I had to learn. Everybody don't love it like I love it. You know what I mean? Like that part, like, I say it all the time. I think about it all the time. I get tired in this work, but I don't ever get tired of this work. And so I think as a principal, um, I think I have to lead by example, right? And so I have to lead with love. I have to be effective witness to this is what it means to love on these kids. And sometimes it is simply, okay, you know what I mean? And so I think taking all of the lessons from the classroom and what it looks like to love on kids and also using that same lens to love on teachers so that they can deliver the things that these kids need because my kids need and deserve it. So I think that probably is the biggest shift.
Mm,
Like I
yeah,
am literally responsible for like who I put in front of these kids. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And I have to look past that whatever that graduate degree says, whatever that degree says, I gotta look past. Let me see you in action. Let me see, do you love our kids, right? Because you can love kids and not love our kids. You know what I mean? So let me see how culturally competent you are, because that makes a difference. You know what
big
I mean?
difference,
Let
big
me
difference.
see if you have empathy and expectation, or do you have sympathy and low expectation? You know what I mean? So I think thinking about all of those things, and I think about it all the time, and so I think that's like the biggest shift. I think there might have been a time where I was able to I don't think I ever am able to turn it off. I think there was a time that I was able to like turn it down, and like right now I don't. I have no desire to turn it down. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah,
it.
that's good. Yeah, I mean that's when you are aligned with to do exactly what you were supposed to do and you enjoy it. Um, what what do you think is well, not what, but how do you think that your sisters really helped you with I guess with the transitions of life, careers, things like that? How important? Talk about how important your sisters were to you
Mm.
or are to you.
Man, everything,
Yeah,
everything, like, I don't think I have enough words to really articulate how they are and how they know me,
yeah,
and so and what I need. It's funny. I moved into this principal role in March of this year, and they just come alongside and, hey, you need dinner. You know what I mean? Like, it's the simple stuff. You need dinner. You can come over here and eat. Hey, come over here and check on me. I think they just know me, and they know the burden that is this teaching thing for me, right? They know the weight of the burden, and so they're just so supportive in a lot of different ways, from a meal to them praying for me to just the support. They're my go-tos. Like when we do a career day, hey, listen, I need you to come. Hey, listen, I need you to come. Or, one of the things that has happened now is that because I've been teaching for so long, my first like sets of kids, they're like 27, 28. And so now I'm like, listen, I'm sending the kid to you. I need you to hire them. Or listen, I'm sending a kid to you. I need you to hire them. You know what I mean? They allow me to turn off. I'm Miss Wilson. I'm Miss W a lot of the day. And so to be able to get around them, and it's just Nisha. You know what I mean? And I don't, and I just appreciate just Nisha. You know
Just
what I
that.
mean? Come on up here and come eat. Or you know what I mean? Come and do the thing that, because you left your house at 6:30 in the morning, you're not getting home till 8. Like, and sometimes it's as simple as, you good? I ain't heard from you all week. You know what I mean? And it's just those things. That I don't necessarily have to ask. They just know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean, and that's just what they've always been to me, forever and ever and ever and ever. And I think, the older we get, the better it gets, because I think we just know each other. And when we talk about, they're my sisters, but they're also my friends. And I
I was
think
just
that's
about
the
to say that.
difference.
I was
That,
about to
you know what
say
I
that that's
mean?
important. That's
Yeah.
extremely important because that's
Yeah.
the one thing my mom, my mother, and her sister. It's like I tell my mom all the time that her sister is like the battery. It's the battery that keeps her going because she gets extremely frustrated with her, but next thing I know they're talking on the phone again. So it's it's
Yeah.
they got both of them exist because of each other. So
Hmm.
I would say it's
Yeah.
probably you all probably
Oh,
have a similar similar thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
My oldest sister is probably like more nurturing, right? Like, she's more nurturing. So she is going to listen, come back here and get something to eat, or she will tell me. She probably has permission to say, "Yo, you need rest. Like, don't do anything. You need to rest." You know what I mean? So she keeps me grounded in that way, with as far as rest is concerned. Because I did, and sometimes I still do have like that work life balance situation. She is very much, you don't have to do anything, just come up here, or don't even worry about it. I got it. I'll bring it to you. Like, she's that person for me. My youngest sister, I'm in the middle. My youngest sister is comic relief, and just like, and she's the same, but that's just my friend. You know what I mean? Like, she is. I can turn it off and go off. You know what I mean? Let me tell you what happened today, and I can't believe this, and I wouldn't believe. And but they know it's coming from a place of love, right? And so they allow me that space, and then, like, all right, so you going back in? Yep, I'm going back in. You know what I mean? So yeah, do I have time to tell this? Is like a quick story, and this
Go
is just
ahead.
like the epitome.
Go ahead.
So back in 2018, it was a rough year. I'll never forget this. In 2018, I was teaching at a middle school, and in the course of 1 week, three of my students got shot. Three. And from Tuesday to Tuesday, I'll never forget this. So on one Tuesday evening, two brothers that I taught, were coming home from school and they got shot, and it messed me up. Like, it messed me up. I called Devon. That's my older sister. I called her and I'm like, "Man, you wouldn't believe what happened today." So I'm telling her the story, and I'm like processing and telling her the story. She's like, "You good?" I'm good. I don't know how good I was, but I was
But
good
I'm
as I
good.
could be in the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The very next week, we get to school and we get the news. Another one of our kids had gotten shot in a drive-by. And I remember I sat in my school parking lot and I called Devon, and I am like on the verge of tears. And I was like, "Devon, you're just never gonna." I said, "Guess what happened?" And like, we're quiet on the phone, and she was like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah." And I told her the story, and it's quiet on the phone. And so she says, "You quitting?" And it was like a powerful, poignant moment. She was like, "You quitting?" And that was probably the first time in my life that I was like, I don't know if I'm where I'm like, this is too much. And it was quiet on the phone, and she asked that, and I was like, "Nah, I ain't quitting." And she was like, "That's right. You don't quit on those kids. You get back in there." And that's just like one of a cajillion examples of her just like loving me back to life. Cause when I tell you I sat in that car that day, like, Lord, you know what I mean? Like, this was this in the plan? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, they mean everything to me. Everything. Yeah,
I,
definitely.
I think we have to go through those tests. Your support system or your motivation or your sisters. For me, it probably sounds crazy, but I have this like little voice or something that talks to me in my head. So like when I get to that point where I'm really questioning, do I continue to go forward? There's this certain little like and I'm trying to find it, trying to figure it out. Starts talking to me at random times. So I might
Mhm.
be standing in the mirror, or I might be running. I might be, I might be doing something, and it's just something starts talking to me, and it's like, why are you acting like a? And then it's like, you need to tighten up, get yourself together. You've been through way more. It's like all of these different things. Um, and then I actually one day out me and Tamar was texting, and I sent him this video. So I got this one video that I watch every single time that I'm going through like something just unexpected. You just ain't no way I'm gonna get through it. And it's like it's Muhammad Ali, and he's talking, but then it has like a video playing. It's the song. I have to send it to you, but it's the song playing from when he's in Africa. So the song is playing, and then the hip hop preacher he starts talking, and he starts talking about how, sleep is for those that give up, and he was just like, you gotta, pain is temporary, you gotta get through that. You don't really want it, So I always play that to remind myself, but I've had to find it several different times because like your sister was saying, like you can't give up.
Can't
Like
give
that
up.
ain't
Yeah.
that ain't an option. You
Mhm.
like I always say this when I'm talking to like different people that's trying to, I don't know, pout. I'm like, you black. We ain't got no choice but to be tough.
Come
We
on.
was forced to have to win, but you still got a choice, but
Mhm.
you don't at the same
Yeah.
time. Like
Yeah.
if you want to be somebody, you want to, you want. I feel accountable. I think this is the one thing that recently I discovered this. Me and my uncle was talking, and what we were talking noticed was that a lot of our family or friends that didn't play any kind of organized sport or wasn't in any kind of any kind of groups in school had problems with accountability. Like so, and punctuality. And then I look at the ones that had those and they don't have no problems.
Mhm.
If I say that to them, obviously they're gonna disagree with that. But
Yep.
I've seen it in so many examples where the ones that have had some kind of structure, or in my mind, what I feel like is that when you're a part of a team,
Yeah.
then you can't let the team down.
That's right.
So now if you let the team down, it's like nobody wins,
Mm.
everybody loses.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I always say is I'm a winner no matter
Yeah.
what. Before I get on my bed every day, I ask myself, well, am I a winner? Yeah, we'll go win then. So if you're a winner, then you don't let the team down. I think that those are basic concepts. I ain't a teacher, but I get to talking to different people, and I've embraced that some people actually like pay attention to me, even though I've had many coaches that told me back in the days, or even as I was approaching college, that I'm a leader even if I don't want to be. People follow me. And I only tap into it occasionally. I tap into it like when I've been trying to get my businesses up, I tap into it. When I was in grad school, I started raising money. I paid for my grad school by throwing parties and doing things for people.
Mhm.
And and people ride with me, like people trust me. So I tap into it as far as being motivating, trusting, guiding people in the right directions when I need to. But
Right.
I still feel like I don't know. I just feel like that I haven't embraced that I have so much I could impact other people's lives. Like you've embraced that you are important to other people's lives. I haven't. I can't. I don't know. I just haven't accepted that responsibility. Occasionally, I get it. Like I got two different cousins that just graduated from college. Matter of fact, one just graduated from WVU 2 weeks ago, and another from Georgia. And both of them, I was actually going to try to get them on the podcast because I've been talking to them separate times
Yeah.
just about having a plan, because what I wanted to explain to them is that even if you have a plan, it ain't gonna go the way you expect, but at least you've thought some things through, so you're not
Yeah.
in a panic when it does go a different way. And my one cousin Taraya, hopefully she watches this. Like I wanted to sit down and talk to her because I know she has a good heart. She's kind, but there's also some things that you know she's gonna have to be prepared for when it goes left. And it ain't about going and leaning on your parents, and it ain't about, you want them there, but that's your if you live with a safety net underneath you all most of your life, you ain't gonna take no chances. And if you don't take those chances, then you don't really ever find out what you can really do. So that's, like, I sat down with her one day and we talked a little bit about that, and I was like, I really want to talk more with you. So every time that we've tried to figure out a time to talk about it, it's just been,
Yeah,
it's been off, because she
yeah,
just graduated, so
yeah,
she moving on in a lot of different ways. But I think that the best way that I can reach her is by her sitting and watching us talk about these kind of things, and it might click at some point. So that's why I'm sitting down with you, and we getting personal, but not too personal. Just what is what of I guess one of your fears, one of your biggest fears, or was one of your biggest fears?
I think that, like you, I think that I operated in fear for such a long time, um of everything. I was scared of everything. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, my
yeah.
just scary. Just, I was
Hmm.
timid. And so maybe not fear, but I was timid. Um and I bless God that I desire to move fearlessly, right?
Hmm.
Like, so that I think that, because it's just like, well, why not? And that's, I
Yeah,
think, if I ask me, why not? You know
yeah.
what I mean? And I think what happened was, I saw other people doing it, and this isn't a comparison, and it's not a judgment, but I would see other people doing it, like,
Yeah,
well, if
yeah,
they can do it, then I can. And I'm just gonna fill up. You know what I mean? And that's okay, and it's okay. But I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna try again, and I'm gonna learn. You know what I mean? So I think right now my biggest fear, if I had one fear, would probably be not not fulfilling purpose.
yeah,
I say to people all the time, I want to get to heaven on E. Like, I don't want to get to heaven and it's some stuff I was supposed to do here on earth that I didn't do. I want to get to heaven on E, like
mm,
on empty.
yeah,
That means I've given all that I was supposed to give on this earth. But in order to do that, you really do have to take care of yourself. You got to take care of your body. You got to take care of that. And so that's like, when I talked about earlier, like struggling with work life balance, or not getting enough sleep, or not eating the right way, like really paying attention to those things now, because I really I want to have the energy and the health to do all the things that God has put in here and right
hmm,
here, and has already wrote, in that plan for me. And so I think my biggest fear is not fulfilling that, not being healthy enough to, like, fulfill purpose.
hmm,
And so I think right now that's what drives me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, that's what, like, it is easier for me now to take a break and not do anything. It's easier for me now to, I got a hard 5:30 p.m. stop at work. Like, I
yeah,
stop and I come home. It's easier for me to, let me just go walk for 20 minutes. Um, it's easier for me to know, let me pack a lunch today. You know what I mean? Like, those things. And it sounds really minute. It sounds really simple and minor, but it's easy to get caught up in
it is.
that stuff. You know what I mean? It's easy to get caught up in that. So that's probably my biggest fear. But we working on that too. You know what I mean? So that's
remember,
that's it.
you remember, I told you probably maybe 2 years ago when you were kind of on the running, starting to run and
Hmm.
stuff, and I told you you planned out your week and your exercise and into that. So
Absolutely.
that's one of the things that
Yep.
I plan when I write out my weekly goals. I write out I'm gonna run 10 miles in a week. I write out that I'm gonna go to the gym
Yeah.
and stretch for 20, 30
Yeah.
minutes. The same way I write out I
Everything
need to
else.
pay this bill, or I need to make sure that I speak positive affirmations in the morning. All of those things I write out, and it's interesting with that because I've suggested that to a lot of people. Just write out the things that you need to do,
Yeah.
and but for some reason people act like it's some kind of penalty, it's some kind of, I don't know, like I'm
No.
cursing at them.
Listen, and let me shout you out, because not only, excuse me, not only hearing you do it, but watching you do it. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time I used to be like, "You did your goals yet?" I would text on Sunday, "You did your goals yet?" And that was so, like, inspiring to me. Because, sometimes you get it, and sometimes you get it and you hold on to it, and then it comes back up. And
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
say that to say, this year I realize I have finite time. I don't got a lot of time. I don't got a lot of time. So I need to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do with this time, because I can't do everything. And so, to your point, absolutely, write out your days, write out your weeks. Like, that's probably one of the, you got a lot of nuggets. I pick up a lot of nuggets. I think we share a lot of nuggets with each
Hmm.
other.
Hmm.
But that one right there, that was life changing for me, because when you don't have a plan, like you and I find myself like, oh, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm over here, and it's like, no, 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 you're right. This is what you're supposed to be doing today. This is what you're supposed to be doing at this time. I mean, it just makes a difference. And you don't always get it right the first time, but just keep coming back,
Keep on, yeah,
and
yeah.
you hone that skill and you get it. Yeah, man, that's big right there. So yeah.
One of the things, the way that I explain it, so I this because I've been trying to get my mother to do it, and I explained to it like this. I said, if you pull up, if you're on a computer and you got a bunch of websites up, it's easy for you to, if you want to go to another website, it's easy for you to just go to the other window, and the window and it's up there. But it's difficult if you have to remember what the actual web address is that you got to type in. So you got to use extra energy, extra
Mm-hmm.
memory to actually get that website up. So that's taking more time. When if you write stuff down, then you can just go and refer to that, or
Yep.
it's in your mind. You're like, oh yeah, I need to do this too. But
Yeah.
you're not you. So now you're not burning that extra energy to think about that you can use for something else. It's
Yep.
small things that I realize that we burn, like that we use our energy for, that might seem like it's not using that much, but if you do that a
It
couple of times
is.
in the week,
Mm-hmm.
by Friday you running on fumes, and you're like, why am
Right.
I so exhausted? But it's
Right.
because you've been burning through and all over the place all the
Mm-hmm.
time, that
Mm-hmm.
now you ain't got nothing left. So you
Yeah.
got you mentally
Come on.
you're about to explode, or you got to just run out of your battery's about to die. So you got to go and re-energize.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I learned, that allowed me to be a lot easier, to my days to be easier. And then also two other things that I started doing was I started making what I was going to eat. I had at least decided what I was going to eat or take to work for me the next day, as opposed to wait until the next morning to try to get it.
Just try to
Or
figure it out.
yeah, and then also I'd have at least a couple of options on what I'm going to wear that night before I get up in the morning. I might not wear, but at least I got some things that are sitting out there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, this is what I might do, and those things allowed me to not have to use so much
Yeah.
energy trying to get myself prepared the next day and stuff. So um, just a little, little things that
Little
I
thing.
done learned over the times, trying to keep it all together and maximize the days. And because, like you said, the time is precious, and we run.
Mhm.
When you're doing a lot of stuff, you don't have a lot of time, but then you can't make a bunch of false moves. You got
Yeah.
to be right on whatever it is to
That's
get to
exactly
right to the
right.
next thing. Yeah.
And you can't waste time. I think I realized when I started planning out my day, and I think it's like it's also like time and space and people. There are some things I just can't afford to give space to anymore. I just learned that. You know what I mean? I just learned that. Personal to sit like, nah, I can't give space to that anymore. Like, I need to be over here. I need to be working right here. I need to, develop my, you know, my own things that I need to be working on. The things that God has planted in my spirit and in my mind, like those are the things that take precedence now, as opposed to, you know what? Nah, I don't want to go out to this happy hour. I do want to go home. I want to work on this, or I do want to go home and rest because I want to get up early in the morning so that I can knock out my home life errands so I can get back to this. And I think like just understanding time and space, um, and that you're worth it. Yeah, I'm worth it. You know what, the goals, the desires of my heart are worth 45 minutes a day. The desires of my heart, the goals that I want, they're worth 25 minutes a day. My health is worth a 20-minute walk. You know, and I mean, my health is worth, and it sounds crazy, but you just said it, packing the night before or having this idea. And I think those little things make a difference. The mundane, that's where excellence is birthed, in the mundane. The ability to do the mundane, to be disciplined enough to do the mundane things over and over again. That's what separates you,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah.
I told I told my little cousin the other day. I told her to look up Newton's law of inertia, and she was like, "What?" I was like, "Just look that up,
Look
and
it
you'll
up.
understand what that means." Because you know, basically, momentum. You can
Yeah.
move directions when you already got momentum moving versus
Mhm.
stopping and
Mhm.
starting. So,
Mhm.
but yeah. So, what I want to wrap us up with. I got some rapid fire questions. I got about 10 questions I'm gonna ask, and
Gotcha.
it's questions and I might have like one, just maybe like a comment or two, and you just the first thing that comes to your mind. So I'm gonna start out with texting or phone or phone conversation.
Phone conversation.
um Favorite day of the week.
Tuesday. Believe it or not.
Mine is Monday.
Tuesday. Tuesday is the favorite day of the week.
I told this lady that one day when I used to work in the firm, and she was like, are you being funny?" And I was like, "Nah." She was like, "I'm curious. Why do you say Monday?" And I said, "Because for me, however my Monday goes sets the precedent for the rest
Yeah.
of the week.
Rest of the week.
So if my Monday is great, or I at least say it's going to be great, then the rest of the week is going to follow in suit." And she was like, "Ah, so like the glass is full, kind of half full glass, full half empty, half full." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So, let me see. The last song that you listened to.
Oh man, Jay Z. Uh, the Life and Times of Sean Carter. The intro. That's a
Okay,
dope album.
I
That's a dope
agree.
album. That's a
I
dope
agree.
album.
I just I've been stuck on this one song now. It's for it's a go-go song. CCB is called Optimistic. I've been
Hmm.
had this thing on repeat for like 3 days. Like I ain't
Yeah.
even listened to nothing else. So Optimistic, yeah.
I'm
Um, check it out. Check it out. Let's see. One of your guilty pleasures.
I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure. Probably. Nah, guilty pleasure. I don't know. I don't think I have it. I don't because I don't think they're. I don't think it's guilty. Uh, you know what I mean? I don't think it's guilty. I don't know. Come back to that one. Let me think.
Bet. Okay. Um,
What's yours?
my a guilty pleasure, probably putting some chocolate on some ice cream.
Now, listen. Okay, so I think, and it's so funny. I was telling my dad this the other day. So we got the ice cream truck, like in Philly, and so I wasn't a fan, but then there's this ice cream truck that comes around our way that only serves soft serve. So listen, soft serve. There's this soft serve waffle cone, vanilla waffle cone dipped in chocolate. That's probably my guilty pleasure. That like I listen for the ice cream truck. Like, I think I
do
hear
you
it. Let me go out.
do you like you like the water ice? Do you do the
Oh
water
yeah,
ice? Yeah. All right.
come on now,
All right.
Philadelphia staple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. This is going to be just a word. Education.
Critical.
Yeah. Um, Favorite movie.
The Shawshank Redemption.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how good is your driving?
8. You gotta learn how to drive for the people here in the city of brotherly love.
Let me see. What did I? Oh, your first celebrity crush.
And still crush. So if you're out here and you hear this, I'm open up to coffee dates. Kadeem Hardison from a different world, still to this day.
Okay.
Who is
If you,
yours?
my celebrity crush is Alicia Keys. Well, it changed because it was Queen Latifah at first. It was
Hmm.
Queen Latifah, and then it was Alicia Keys.
Okay, okay.
Um, if you could have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
To really, to really see the true need of people, right? When you serve, we see a whole lot of stuff. I see a whole lot of stuff with my kids. I see them acting up. I see them doing this. I see them doing that. But like, what's the root? So to be able to see the root, so we can focus on the root instead of it taking me, 3 months to focus. You know what I mean? Like he needed a hug, and I'm giving him lunch attention. Nah, like let me just love him. So I think that for people too. I think that for adults too.
Yeah,
You know.
mine would be to undo whatever was done in the last 5 minutes, so I could just go back and undo anything that was done in the last 5 minutes.
It's pretty dope.
Let's see. I think that might, if that ain't 10, that's pretty close to 10. We'll wrap it up with that. So, is there anything else that you'd like to include, or anybody, you got any web pages, or anything you want to podcast, anything you'll be on or doing coming up soon, any projects?
So I'm glad that you asked that. Thank you so much. So I am working on a podcast called Just Some Teachers Talking, and we did like a soft launch a few years back. One of the things I realized, it's very hard to get teachers during the school year to come on, and so I'm trying to make it be real intentional with it this year, this summer actually, to interview teachers and principals and leaders so that we can drop an episode like, at least once a week. So just be on the lookout for that. It is definitely on Spotify, Just Some Teachers Talking. Um, and yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
Share your own thoughts and ideas. We do get back to you. We will respond to you. Until then, this has been another episode of Black on Purpose 365. Have a good evening. We'll talk to you again soon.